I'm here in Utah at the Ford Raptor Assault School for the launch of the brand new Ford Ranger and Ranger Raptor. You're going to be hearing directly from some of the Ford performance engineers. We're going to be taking the Ranger Raptor for an off-road drive. We'll be talking about how the regular Ranger drives and, of course, walk you through as much of the engineering as possible. So let me give you an overview of the basic Ranger. The Ranger starts at a little bit over $30,000 as a rear-wheel drive truck. An XLT with 4x4 starts at about $39,000. Well equipped, it's in the mid-40s. This is a brand new truck from the ground up. They took the basic formula of the old Ranger and have changed essentially everything. The frames have been updated, the suspension geometry has been changed, it has all new body panels, interior. However, the drivetrain, the basic drivetrain, is carryover. So the frame is the same basic frame architecture that's used in the Bronco, so at least in the front end, some similarities are definitely there. You get the same drivetrain options. You get either a 2.3 liter as base or a 2.7 liter, which is an optional engine in the base Ranger. The gearbox is the 10-speed, which is also a carryover from the prior generation Ranger, but obviously it's been entirely recalibrated. The rear suspension, though, has been radically altered. It's still leaf in the back for the basic Ranger, but the shocks have been moved outboard to give it a little bit better suspension geometry and help with some of the ride and handling and the general NVH of the vehicle, which has been dramatically improved. I can tell you that from a driving perspective. The frame is also more rigid, it's fully boxed, and a lot of that rigidity also helps reduce the NVH that makes its way into the cabin. From an interior perspective, they've carried that quietening of the cabin over, so it, as standard, has acoustic glass. It's a much, much quieter space. The interior space as well has all new seats and a brand new dash with, of course, the standard giant screen you're used to in basically all Ford products. Now, interior design language, we haven't lived with this thing that long, so I can't really tell you about it, but there is good door storage and the rear seats flip up. So the ergonomics are what you're hoping for in a vehicle like this. And to standardize this vehicle, it only comes one way, as a crew cab with the single size bed. That's, of course, to reduce costs, but also make sure they can produce these things in large numbers. Now, when it comes to towing, this thing in the Ranger form, non-Ranger Raptor, tows over 7,000 pounds, and it has a lot of the driving aids for towing that used to be only available in full-size trucks and it's now in the mid-size trucks. So you can get blind spot monitoring for the rear trailer and all the other fun stuff you are hoping for in a vehicle like this. The Ranger Raptor is a different story. This thing starts at $57,000. Well, it really only comes one way, and with destination is $57,000. It tows substantially less, a little bit over 5,000 pounds. Comes with an entirely different drivetrain, a direct carryover drivetrain from the Bronco Raptor, a vehicle we liked very, very much. However, there are some key differences between this vehicle and the Bronco Raptor, which we're going to discuss with Carl and some other engineers from Ford. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here with Carl, who, sir, I'll have you introduce yourself and what you do and all that other fun stuff for Ford.
I'm Carl Woodman. I'm the Ford Performance Chief Engineer, and my team of men and women are responsible for making Raptors and high-performance Mustangs like the GTD.
So let's talk about this from a technical perspective, because that's what we do. This is on the T6 architecture, correct? And there is a misconception a lot of people have that this is essentially the same truck because it is the identical drivetrain as the Bronco Raptor with a bed, but it's not. There are some key differences to the front and the rear, correct?
Yeah, so if you think about the Bronco Raptor, it was set up when we did its first generation that it wanted to be ultra sport inspired. So a lot of stuff to make it go high speed in the desert, but it's a lot of stuff to do rock crawling. And so it was really focused on that so it could basically pull itself on one wheel and tire. So for the Ranger Raptor, there's kind of a different approach to it. It's the second generation, so we had a parts bin to work with of stuff that actually we know met customers' expectations and stuff we really wanted to improve. But from a character perspective, the main thing about the Ranger Raptor, or we call it the superpower, is it's really a sporty one, right? So it's the sporty one of the family. It's nimble, it's all about steering. My favorite story is when I went over to Australia and talked to those guys about what is the character they're after. We went out and drove on their dirt track course, and we've kind of set that up here, but they don't use cones, they use trees. So in essence, you come up on a eucalyptus tree at 60 miles an hour, and then you got to put the steering wheel in just right. And so they're really hyper focused on that every way they do things. So the shock tuning, So we gave them, live valve shocks. That was super important because with the engine, we were going to overdrive the chassis, right? It just had so much power for this truck that live valve shock was the most critical thing to really get the damping control both side to side. And we got a ton of rebound control in this vehicle. So that was the next most important thing after the powertrain.
But it's a smaller damper than the Bronco as well, correct?
Yeah. So the architecture is a T6 architecture, which helps us use the engine because that gives us the shock tower placements. So we'd use the same engine between the Bronco Raptor and the Ranger Raptor, and it was all set up to Ford performance specifications, and it's only used in those two vehicles. So it's set up to be free breathing, and then the turbo engineer is like, great, I got a free breathing engine. I can do this magic stuff with the turbos, and we give him like an Excel spreadsheet. We said we want this for horsepower and torque.
And he said how much power is it? I apologize.
This one's 405. It's a longer exhaust system, so it has a little bit more back pressure. So 405, which is a ton for it. So that was super critical, and then the live valve dampers was super critical. So then we took a look at the rest of the chassis and what we wanted to do with it. And we widened it out from a regular Ranger. So the regular Ranger, it's about 3.5 inches wider, or 90 millimeters as they talk about it in Australia. So that was key because that gives us stance. And then we have all unique upper and lower control arms, unique shock towers in the front. Just like in the rear, we have a unique coilover. We get rid of the leaf springs. We replace it, in this case, with a Watts link. The Watts links come from the Gen 1 of this vehicle. What works really well with the Watts link in this application is it really has a nice lateral tire patch stiffness. So as you drive it and throw it around, it helps you in the steering capability of the vehicle and give you that ability to precisely set it where it is, and it takes a set quick and goes. So the travel is less on this than a Bronco Raptor, right? It's only about 10 inches of total suspension travel, where we talk about 13 on the big Broncos, but it's just a different setup in that we make it so wide. The advantage of being narrower in this case, you can pick your trail line, right? A lot of what we do in the Bronco Raptor and F-150 Raptors, they are wide open desert kind of things. This one's gonna live in probably different areas and be a new customer to us because it has that ability to be sporty, more flexible to take stuff with you in a pickup bed, right? You can take all sorts of gear with you, but you can also handle trails narrower and get places, but it still has that great authenticity of durability. So with the chassis setup we have, which again is all unique shock towers, so if you imagine the picture of the rolling chassis we do, all the same parts have changed. And on this Ranger Raptor, as we change on all the other Raptors, and it runs the same durability circuit we do. They do it in Alice Springs, we do it in Borrego Springs, which I think is funny, right? Because they're both deserts. I don't know why they got, But, and then we ran this in Baja. We took the same truck powertrain, sent it over to Australia, and ran Fink in it. It was just crazy. So it actually ran 2 times durability, but it's a great truck.
So back to some of the technical bits. In the rear, this suspension setup versus the Bronco Raptor, what advantages or disadvantages does having a Watts have in corner exit?
So in this application, so in the 2 superpowers, one's rock crawling, one's sporty. So we use the standard panhard bar setup links that we use on that one, so we can get some articulation. The whole axle will twist more, which in that case will take that advantage. We got more travel on that one, so that twist means more. In this application, where we're dealing with the fact we want it to be really nimble back and forth, we didn't want to tear out the Watts link and say, well, we're going to go this way. We've got familiarity with Watts link in North America because it used to be what we used in Mustang. It was a big steering improvement we put it in back in the day. Used it in Crown Vics, Grand Marquis. So we were very confident in the way it was, and that's what we wanted for this character of this vehicle. And with the travel it has, it doesn't limit its travel capability, doesn't limit its running clearance capability. So it was a good application for the Watts.
And then your Australian counterpart, who I spoke to just recently, said the reason they went from the 3 to the 2.5 is the 3 would almost over dampen this vehicle as well.
Yes.
And that's for shock size.
It's shock size. So what you'll trade off in shock size, if you take a look at it, we run a coilover in this application. Yeah. It's a real tight package for a coilover. So it's back around. If you grow the coilover, then you actually would have to move the tire out. So yeah, you don't need the damping, but it also kind of gets into the
packaging issues.
The packaging issues and choices you make to kind of make the best Raptor and push the technology you can at the time. And so the 2.5 was a huge step forward, because even though it's a 2.5 diameter, we can electrically control it, and it's running the same software we run on this vehicle, we run on all 3 of them.
Okay.
So it's the same algorithm, same jump mode, all that stuff. And so we can really change the damping characteristics and take advantage of the compression control and still give you a good ride, but give you good handling. And we use a lot more rebound control on this vehicle. So we use that full capability of the 2.5, and the electrically controlled will help us as we shift. We know from the perspective as from the ride height sensors and what you're driving, we can basically damp the vehicle as you put it into a turn. So as you kind of tune it a little bit different. It still does all the off-road durability to take. When you drive it off-road, it will still take away all that energy, and you drive it hard, you still get that dissipation from the jounce control. But in this application, we use a lot of the rebound to actually give you that capability to actually steer it in and feel confident in the steering.
So you can yaw the vehicle out.
Which is what you did today, right?
Yeah. So just like in the regular Raptor products, based upon your drive modes, you're looking at body control modules, ride height sensors to change ABS calibration, throttle mapping, the way your all-wheel or your four-wheel drive system setups. Dynamically, I'm more of an on-road guy based upon one of my favorite cars. In your mind, if you're comparing this to a sports car, how does this feel different than a Bronco Raptor? Longer wheelbase obviously helps.
Longer wheelbase, right? Yeah. I think once you get the perception when you get into it, you're kind of in the vehicle. Sometimes when you get into a Bronco Raptor, you're kind of on top of it, kind of command and control, right? You get in this vehicle, it kind of is around you. You get that perception right away from the roll centers, how that works. And then as you position it, you feel very comfortable in putting the back end kind of out a little. It hangs out, it's got that sporty nature to it a little bit more. The Bronco Raptor is, with this 45-degree approach angle, and its setup is really, it can go really well on a highway. It turns in really, we made that as a quick turn-in, but it is a bulky, larger vehicle.
And it doesn't have the stability of this does because of the longer wheelbase.
Longer wheelbase, higher up versus the 2, right? So you get that perception right away when you drive the 2, and then the Bronco Raptor kind of surprises you for what it is, that it actually turns in on a highway or on a twisty road.
No, it is remarkable what you've managed to, particularly with most recent electromechanical systems, you can do with the Raptor R, the regular Raptor, the Bronco. It's remarkable. But is there anything, as we sort of wrap this out and before Chris and I go pound this thing around on your dirt course, is there anything you want your customers to know that are coming from other vehicles or other?
Yeah, I think, we've always said this one is, it's an enthusiast vehicle, it's a driver's vehicle. It still gives you all the flexibility to learn with the vehicle, right? So we always say it's very intuitive when you get it. It's set up for that. The throttle response is very intuitive. The steering is very intuitive. And then you can grow with it, or if you're an expert coming to it, you've got all that complexity that you can do. You got locking front and rear differentials. You got high-low. You got a crawl mode that's, up around the high 60s, right? It's got a lot of flexibility for it, and it really can go anywhere, and it's got that proven rapid durability.
And you can put it in, part of my language, full asshole mode if you want to, Baja mode, rear drive, everything off if you want to.
It's got a lot of familiarity when you get in the interior. It's got all the bolsterings in the seats. It's got all the controls right there on the steering wheel for what you want to do. So it's got a lot of familiarity as the Raptor customers expect.
Well, I appreciate your time, sir, and I do appreciate the full silver fox look you have going for yourself. So with that, Chris and I are going to go take this for a quick drive.
Enjoy yourself. It's great.
We're out here, Chris, and the Raptor Ranger behind Anthony, one of the engineers from Ford Performance. He's a steely-eyed missile man. Let's do this. And let me say, we have driven the regular Ranger. It's better than the old truck. It's quieter, it's more comfortable, it rides better. It's all the things you want it to do. But yeah, it's this is the real one. And you get the unique privilege that Mark used to get of me just going very sideways everywhere. Man, what do I first want to talk about when it comes to this truck? As Carl talked about, it has a level of stability and balance that I think is not found in the regular Bronco Raptor. You can really get this thing to rotate under braking, which is exactly, as I found, the preferred method for the Ranger Raptor. The 6, which, you know, I have my mixed feelings on EcoBoost 6s, and I know a lot of people do, but I think this 6, just like in the Bronco Raptor, is well suited for the character of this mid-sized truck. It has lots of power, lots of low-down torque. Yeah, man, I mean, you drove this thing sort of on a rock crawling course. Yeah. How did you feel about it there? I mean, you said this is one of your favorite off-road vehicles you've ever been behind the wheel.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, excluding something like absolutely insane like a Raptor R, it's really comfortable. It's really comfortable. It's really capable. It's not a full-on rock crawler, you know, like some other vehicles.
Yeah,
in the
like
segment.
the Bronco Raptor.
Yeah, but it does this, and it can manage its way through like a proper off-road course.
Yeah, and on-road, which, to be fair, you know, vehicles like this is 99.9% of the driving you'll be doing is on-road, not tearing it up on a dirt course like this. It's really compliant, just like a regular, you know, regular F-150 Raptor. Does a great job soaking up all the day-to-day bumps. You have the compliance you're looking for. You have the quietness of the regular Ranger, which is carried over to this vehicle, and then you can put this in as what Mark calls Baja mode and go full asshole mode, which is what I very much so prefer doing in this vehicle. You get to you get this thing to yaw out. I have this in traction off, Baja mode 4 high. Anthony is like 8 times the driver I am, but yes, I'm having a very, very good time. I think whimsiness is something that's lost on a lot of modern vehicles. Everything's so serious, and yes, the Ford marketing is, oh, it's gotta be Ford tough. But if you're just looking to have a very good time, and you realize that, you know, what you want out of your $60,000 or $57,000 purchase should be a smile ear to ear, I'm really, really happy with this stupid thing. I mean, what else, Chris, can you ask for in a truck?
Well, I think the best part, you mentioned the price. It's getting cheap. It's almost at the price point where you would actually like. It's
want
at the
to
price,
do this?
Yeah, like I think you'll see people actually using it for this and not just sitting in parking lots.
Yeah, mall crawling.
Yeah.
Unlike the F-150 Raptor, which is a Raptor R, forgive me, which is a very serious vehicle, very serious price. This, because it's not so expensive, it's not a down payment on a massive home, you are willing to just beat the snot out of it. And if you do own one of these vehicles, I highly, highly suggest you do this. So with that, sir, I think it's time for us to wrap up this video. Final thoughts on the Ford Ranger and Ranger Raptor. And first off, huge thanks to Carl and Anthony from the Ford engineering team, and of course, our reps, Sam and Mike. Now, what do I think about the trucks? Let's start with the regular Ranger. Compared to the outgoing Ranger, this is a much better truck, at least in my opinion. That thing felt very low effort in comparison. The new Ranger is still relatively affordable. Honestly, a well-equipped one is like in the low 40s. It's quieter than the old truck. Most notably, the 2.3 is better calibrated. You have a 2.7 as an option. The rear bed is better packaged. It rides better. The interior space feels less Walmart. It is a much better truck, and it is far more competitive in this class. I can't wait to see how it stacks up against the Tacoma and Colorado. And the Ranger Raptor is an incredible vehicle. It is very, very entertaining to drive. It blends a lot of the whimsiness of the Bronco Raptor with the more serious capability, at least in the stuff that we like to do or have done in the past, of the F-150 Raptor. It does the Baja thing really well. It has good ride control. You can steer with the brakes or the throttle. It's incredibly maneuverable. And I think it distinctly has its own character versus all of its other brethren in the Raptor lineup. And when you factor in the price, the fact that it's $57,000 is a huge selling point for this truck. It's like half the price of an F-150 Raptor R. Because of the price and the whimsicalness of it and the sheer capability, it is probably my favorite modern off-roader you can buy right now. So with that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.